Hello and welcome to the farm. Thank you so much for joining us for part two
Part two.
about skyrocketing inflation and are we in hyperinflation and all of this stuff that's out there right now on YouTube where people are trying to scare you into saying we're in this big hyperinflation thing, and we're not. But we are in a skyrocketing
Inflation, right.
We are in a skyrocketing inflation. And so we're going to feel the pinch. We're going to have some things that are going to be a little uncomfortable and inconvenient as the inflation continues to grow. But we wanted to share with you some things that we've done here on the farm to make sure that we're a little more comfortable should something happen. We're a little more prepared, I should say, not comfortable. It's never comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to get comfortable. You always want to be prepared.
Right.
So,
and for somebody who travels about 55 miles round trip a day to my job, I see the gas pumps. I see, man, it's just that extra money that I'm putting in the gas tank, that's money that could be going to other things that support the household, food, utilities, stuff like that. So I get it. I mean, it's
going to hit all of us.
Right.
And this inflation is not just affecting fuel. That trickles down to so many things.
Okay.
Papa Jim actually did some math a little bit ago because you saw a trucker post what it took to fill up his gas tank on his, it's not gas, to fill up his fuel tank on his diesel truck.
So,
listen to this.
One thing to remember is everything that we see in any of our stores is all been transported by in some form of train to truck, the diesel truck to delivery trucks to whatever. Ships and
airplanes.
A lot of that is
jet fuel, diesel fuel.
It is a high grade of diesel fuel. So, and actually in the military, which our second boy who served in the military, we were talking years ago about how a lot of their equipment is diesel because they can, in a pinch, they can go to the air bases and take their jet fuel to run as their fuel for their vehicles.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what this trucker had to say?
So the trucker, so any type of vehicle that uses any type of fuel, that raises the cost, and from the cost goes to everything. Everything is dependent. One of the dependencies is their fuel cost. So I was watching a video, and a truck driver was refueling his diesel semi-truck, 18-wheeler, and it holds 250 gallons. And in 2020, it cost him $637.50 to fill his truck up. He filled up, I wasn't sure if it was yesterday or this morning, he filled up and it cost $1,250.
That's a 200% jump.
So then I went and looked up and was getting averages. And an average semi-loaded gets about 6 to 6.5 miles to the gallon. And so if you look at that miles per gallon versus what he's paying, it's costing them, you think of every mile he goes down that road, just in fuel is costing them 77 cents a gallon at best.
At best. Now, in 2020, what was the average cost of diesel fuel? I know you wrote that down.
It was
$2.55, I think.
$2.55.
In California right now, this was as of Friday. In a small town where we used to live, diesel was already $6.95.
Right. Yeah, this was
some places are $8.
Right.
Already.
No, this was just him filling up. I don't know where he was filling up at, and it was just over $5 a gallon. And that was just, I don't know where he was at. And granted, there are some places that are a little bit less, and some places that are extremely more.
Right.
So.
But imagine if we continue this trend and diesel fuel is $6, $7, $8, $9 a gallon. That's all trickling down to the goods that you have to get. It might get to the point where they just can't deliver.
In our area, I've noticed at the fuel stations that the diesel fuel they're trying everything they can not to go over the $5 mark. But it's not gonna.
And that's in the Midwest. It's never been like that here.
It's never been like that. So anyway, just so everybody knows that the fuel cost is pretty much doubled for these
Yeah.
these trucks out there.
So if the fuel
And-
cost is doubled, don't be surprised
Yeah.
if some of your goods are going to start getting those small percentages all the way up to possibly.
and you got to
being
think
doubled.
of that these trains, the trains, the diesels run the big generators that run the electricity to run the motors for the trains, the ships, all these things. You know, it's just
that move cargo, that moves our goods to our stores that we depend on.
right.
So if you haven't already started securing some things in your own household to kind of take the pinch off of this, we want to give you some encouragement here to start. We've got a list of about 15 things that we want you to consider to start doing. So number one on the list of utmost importance is food.
Priority food.
Make that a priority. If you already don't have a well-stocked working pantry, that's your pantry right there in the kitchen where you go to get
Right.
things out. That should always be well-stocked. And then you should have an alternative backup storage pantry. So we're talking about not only making sure that that one pantry in your kitchen is full and smart with your choices, but you should have an area or two on your
Depending on
in your home
Right.
or apartment or on the property you live on where you can store some food safely and smart. So we want you to start thinking about food. One thing that I've done for the past 30 years minimum, I didn't do it in the very beginning because we were so poor, but I think we already had 4 kids when I started taking $20 every pay period. And this was in addition to what my food budget was. If I had my grocery shopping that I had to do, I'd get all of that food. But then I would take $20 to the store and I would walk the aisles or check the sale papers and I would find one item that was on like super sale. If it was olives or spaghetti sauce or hamburger helper, whatever it was,
macaroni and cheese,
spaghetti noodles, whatever, I would find something that was on sale and I would buy $20 worth of that one thing. And we had shelves in our garage and I would just start stacking all of this food that was extra. If I bought 20 cans of olives, it took us quite a while to go through 20 cans of olives, but I had them.
right?
And if push came to shove, we could eat those olives and be fine. Or I could make big batches of spaghetti,
Right,
which my
but
son
she-
ate spaghetti
right,
now because
right.
that's what I did.
Right, but yeah, having a second pantry or food source storage works really well, but just make sure, and it does take a little bit of effort to, if you can, rotate your inventory if you can.
For instance, I went to the store the other day and they had the bigger jars of spaghetti sauce for 75 cents. I've never seen them for 75 cents. So I bought home 20 cans of spaghetti sauce. I'll rotate those out. If I find another sale, those will go in the back and these will come up to the front. And you might say, I don't have a place for a second pantry or this big pantry you're talking about. If you live in an apartment or if you live in a small home or a town home or something, you don't have a space to designate as a preparedness pantry, you can use the floor of your closet to store a couple of cases of food. You can store food under your bed. If you get to the store where they've got the little
Cardboard
cases, the
flats.
cardboard flats that they keep their cans in,
Like soups.
yeah, get a case of soups and slide them under your bed. In a guest room, slide them under the bed. In a corner behind a couch, stack up a couple of cases of food. There are different places. Now, if you live in a place where you have inclement weather, don't store them in an outdoor garage or something. But if you live where you have decent weather all year, there's no reason you can't store those cans out in a garage or in an outdoor storage area. The cans, as long as they're not going to get wet. or
Right,
anything.
and you just kind of, if you're in the humidity levels, right, the humidity levels and stuff, just kind of watch things. You don't want to, because cans, they're metal,
they'll rust.
but
Like under your bed, they're going to be fine.
Right.
So I also went to the store the other day, and Papa Jim was with me. And on the end cap of the store, they had black beans, 25 cents a can.
Yeah.
I can't even can black beans
right.
for 25 cents for a 15-ounce can. So we bought home 3 or 4 flats of black beans and put them under the bed, and that's where they're. And do we love black beans?
I mean, they're okay. It's
They're
not
okay.
It's not. I'm not going to go and open up a can just to
say we can open up a can.
just so I can eat black beans.
But if things
I'm
get
hungry,
tough, we can
can
stretch out taco meat with that. We can stretch out soups. So there are ways that you can stretch out those black beans and make that work for you.
Yeah.
You'll use them.
Yeah.
So if you see something like that, just $20 here. If you don't have $20, do $10. Do $5.
Right.
I mean, could you imagine if you would have been paying attention walking through the store, 25 cents a can, and you could spare $5? That's a lot of cans of beans that you can put away.
Right.
It'll get you through if you're hungry.
I mean, even $1. I mean, 4 cans and just stick it away, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that you can do in proportions. So,
Yeah, it doesn't have to be large proportions. It can be small proportions.
Or small.
The thing is to get out of your head and start changing your mindset to thinking this way. I've had several friends, when I post something about what I'm putting in my pantry or a bargain that I found, I literally have friends that I've known for 30, 40 years say, I can't do that. I don't have anywhere to put food.
Right.
You do. Under your bed, in the corners, in the closet. You have. You just have to want to do it. See, that's the thing. You have to want to do it.
So in our early years of having, being young and having 4 boys, Country Mama, she would take a bunch of different things using her head. And a lot of it, you know, when we first started, there was no YouTube, internet and stuff. She would come up and she would make things and put things and throw things together and stuff. And some of the stuff, you know, was okay, and some of it was really good. I mean, and I think some of those dishes we even have today that she's come up with a long time ago. So, I mean, a long.
Oh my God! Do you remember one meal that I made was one time we had 1 pork chop, and I cut up the pork chop and I made like 2 packets of top ramen, and we had some hot sauce packets from the taco shop, and so I made this whole big noodle thing. I remember that, and that was I mean, we were starving, we were really hungry, so to put that together was a big deal for us back then. So, some of the things that you can put in your pantry right now, and start thinking about putting away is rice, pastas, flour, yeast, so that you could put it with the flour to make bread. I have a great video, 3-ingredient bread. I'll make sure that the link is either up here or in the description box. Coffee. Teas. You want to see if you can get yourself a canister of a powdered like a Gatorade drink that has electrolytes in it. Keep that in your pantry. Don't drink it, but put it away, because
keep it sealed.
Yeah, if you get to where you don't have water available to you or something, as far as you put it with something so you can have electrolytes is what I'm saying.
And the main thing too, what's kind of hard, is if you've got kids in the house, is to make sure that they don't get in that kind of stuff.
It's in your storage pantry.
You know, if they go in there and they take, let's just say, a Gatorade, that you've got powdered Gatorade, and they open it up because they want to make a drink, once that container is open, that shelf life has been compromised.
But you know what? If you have a jar of salsa, when you're done with your jar of salsa, don't throw the jar away. Wash it out real good, dry it good. Put those types of things that you've opened in canisters or something, put them in the jars and keep them in your pantry. They will last much, much longer. So, but you want to make sure that if you're in a situation where you're drinking coffee, yay for you, you've got coffee, but you've got kids who might need something with some electrolytes, or even you if you're sweating. If you're in a grid down situation and you need something to drink, those drinks with electrolytes are good.
Yeah, if you're in an area that's excessively warm and you're sweating and you have no means of cooling, and so you're sweating, you need to have not just water, but you have to replenish electrolytes and your minerals and stuff like that.
So if you're in a grid down situation, there's no driving down to the store to get something. You have to have what you have at the farm, or at your home,
or wherever. I mean, you can be in the middle of a major city, and if that city's power system goes completely down, you basically need to be in your small area.
You need to shelter in place.
Right, shelter in place. Do not go
as much as you can. So, but speaking of coffee, store up on coffee. Right now, coffee is going up. So we keep coffee in the bags that we buy it in. We get it in bags in the whole bean. We get whole beans, and then we grind it as we use it. But in our 5-gallon buckets that we have for our long-term storage food, we have the coffee in their bags. One bucket has a manual grinder so we can grind the beans. Another bucket has a small French press. So if we are in a grid down situation where we don't have any power here, where we can't make coffee the way we normally do, we can grind up those beans manually. We can warm up some water over a campfire, and we can make our coffee. So make sure that you have little things like that in place. And that makes me think too, if you're going to buy all of these cans, if you're somebody who relies on your electric can opener all the time, you're going to find yourself in a world of hurt.
So you can either get yourself a manual can opener.
1 or 2.
Try to get them, put them in various buckets, just so you'll have in case one breaks. On top of that, we've actually got some of the military can openers, the manual can openers. They're like the P38s and the
key crank ones or something.
Yeah, they open up and they've got a little blade on them. And
I'll put a picture right here.
Right. And you just open them up, and we have those in various cans.
They're all over.
All over.
All over.
And I actually have them. I have one in my workshop that, in case of whatever, I have one out there, and you can get them in packs of like 12, and they're very inexpensive.
They are, and if we can find an affiliate link for Amazon, we'll put that down
below
in there too. But make sure you have things so that you can prepare your food and prepare your drinks, and just be as comfortable as you can be, even if you're in a grid down situation. So just make sure that you have that. Also, make sure you have alcohol. Because it's going to be a great antiseptic. If something happens and you're not able to get emergency services out to where you are, and there's been an injury, you can clean a wound with some alcohol.
You can sterilize.
You can sterilize things. Yes, sterilize things.
A wound. You can sterilize a wound with it. You can sterilize instruments. If you need to, like a pair of scissors, somebody's got something caught in their arm or something like that, and you need to cut something, whatever. It sterilizes it.
Don't drink it just because. Have it saved up so you have it for emergencies.
But if somebody gets hurt, it might be a little nip, might help them out a little bit.
It's true.
It's
true. If somebody's in pain, give them a little nip. It might calm them down a little bit.
Maybe.
So
our next thing.
Yeah, make sure you have a well-stocked first aid kit. And we're not just talking about your little boo-boo kit. We're not talking about your little kit that has Neosporin and a couple of Band-Aids in it. We're talking about a very well-stocked first aid kit. You want to have a tourniquet. You want to have sanitary napkins that can be used as compression to stop heavy bleeding wounds. Butterfly sutures that you can use to close a wound.
I have an actual backpack. It's an orange backpack, and I've put in various things, gauzes, believe it or not, women's napkins, the Kotex.
The sanitary pads.
Sanitary pads are perfect to, they'll absorb, and they'll give you an area where you can apply the pressure. So
and they're sterile.
And they're sterile. So get that ointment. We got, you can see your little scissors. I actually have a something I bought, and we'll put the link down for this. This is an individual first aid kit. It's got gauze. It's got a tourniquet in it. It's got a chest seal. I bought this, and then after doing more research, I found out that this kit needed a little bit more, and so I put some more into this, but you can buy them already completed. It just depends on how much you want to spend. But at least nothing else, just get a basic first aid kit and with a tourniquet.
And add to it. We have a very large tote downstairs, and it's our first aid tote. And it has several rolls of gauze. It has several packets of nonstick gauze. Slings, splints, finger splints, hydrogen peroxide, alcohol swabs. There's just a wide array of first aid accoutrements in that box, and it's handy for us to grab if we need it, and everything is labeled.
You want to have a an everyday first aid kit.
A boo-boo kit.
Right, a boo-boo kit, and then you want to have an emergency kit.
Yes.
Right.
So we do have that. So just really work little bit by little bit, and add your ACE bandages, your finger splints, a bottle of rubbing alcohol, a bottle of hydrogen peroxide, some sanitary napkins for compression wounds, butterfly sutures. If we're in a grid down situation and you're not able to just go to the emergency room or to urgent care, and somebody cuts themselves very badly, you're going to need to clean that up, and you might not have what you need to suture them. But if you think you can do it, add that to your kit as well. But the butterfly closures are a really good thing to do.
In my profession, I've butterflied many of cuts. So.
Many a cuts.
Right. Ice packs.
Ice packs. Good point, because we did have that on our list. You want to get the ice packs where you can activate, you pop a component inside the bag.
And it's a chemical reaction.
And it's a chemical reaction and it makes it cold. Make sure you have some of those. Also, the Mylar blankets. If you're in a cold situation, somebody's going into shock or something, you need to have a blanket.
Right. Even if it's not a super cold situation, it might help somebody who's going into shock.
Also, in your first aid kit or even just in your bathroom, make sure you got a good supply of your prescription medication. I know that with the way that insurance companies run, sometimes you can get pre-authorization for more medication. If you want to buy it out of pocket, I don't know how it works, but talk to your doctor, because we haven't done this yet, and this is something we need to do. Talk to your doctor, see if there's a way to get another prescription written or an extension on a prescription written so that you can get an extra 30-day, 60-day supply, whatever you need, and stash it away. When you get the next refill of your prescription, take the one that you had stashed and put that one in the bag. Because if we have these supply issues, if diesel's going to go up in prescriptions, A, you might not be able to make it to your pharmacy, and B, even if you can, who knows if your medication's going to be there.
What brings the medication to a pharmacy?
The diesel trucks.
Diesel drugs.
And right now, the way diesel's going up, we are going to be experiencing some issues. So just keep that in mind. See if you can get, and if it's a prescription medication that's not, life-preserving, still look into it, but maybe don't worry too much. But Papa Jim, he's on a medication that if he doesn't have it, he's going to get sick, and it can be detrimental.
It will be
detrimental.
It will be.
So, look into your prescription medications. That's something that we will be doing. Our next topic is water. Make sure that you have a supply of water. You can go X many days without shelter. You can go X many days without food, but you can only go 3 days without water. So if something detrimental happens and we're in an off-grid, or with the poopy fan, if the poopy hits the proverbial fan, you need water. Now here where we live, we have a well, but if there's no electricity, that water's not coming out of the well. And we have a generator. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But it doesn't mean that...
What if the generator doesn't work?
Yeah, what happens if the generator doesn't work? We'll talk about that too. So you want to have water. Now we have a surplus of gallon jugs of drinking water. Where are they? Right now they're in front of a cabinet in front of the kitchen. It doesn't look pretty, but we have spare water if we need it. We also have a DIY Berkey-inspired water filtration system. We'll put the link to that video on how to make one for yourself, either up above if I have room, or down in the description box below. It's a great water filter system that you can make yourself. And so even if our well isn't working and we have to catch rainwater, or if we have to go down to the creek down the road and get water, we can filter it through this system and we will have drinkable water.
We also have life straws.
We also have life straws. I'll put a link to my life straws down in the description box as well. That is a filtered straw that you can go to a creek and just drink right out of it.
You go right to the creek, and it filters it out, and it gives it drinkable water. Right.
So you're going to want to have ways. If you have a solar oven, you can put water in your solar oven, and you can sterilize it that way. There's so many different things you can do. But you need to start thinking about what you're going to do if you don't have water available.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
What happens if you don't have water? What happens if you don't, let's say that you're in an off-grid situation and you don't, is there any available besides going to a creek that you can gather water from?
You can do water catchment if it rains.
You can
so
do water catchment,
look into that.
Yeah.
5-gallon buckets, 55-gallon buckets, an umbrella upside down, a pot outside when it's raining. You can do bigger systems depending on where you live. Papa Jim and I were discussing this earlier. You have to make sure that where you live, it's going to be legal to do
You have to see
rain catchment.
what regulations they have. I never thought that there would be certain types of regulations on catching rain, but some places have it.
They do. But if you're in a true poopy hit the fan situation,
If you're in a true situation,
you get water any way you can get water.
If it's for survival, you know.
Look into getting IBC totes if you're on a property and work it out to where you can get the rainwater off the roof. But still, you're going to want to filter it. You're going to want to learn how to take care of it. You're going to want to know how to be the best steward of that water, because that might be the only water you have coming in, and you're going to have to learn how to take care of that water so you don't get sick. So look into that. Learn how to do that. There are a lot of videos. There are a lot of tutorials where you can learn how to properly store your water and have drinking water in a grid down situation. So look into that. Water is important. Another thing I put on our list are seeds and gardening supplies. It is never too late to start gardening. I don't care if you live in an apartment or a townhome or a mobile home. If you live with your parents still, if it's a multi-generational family living somewhere, if you have a small backyard, if you only have a front yard, or if you're on a property like we are, you can start a little garden. Even if you just started in your kitchen window or your living room window, you can start little things to grow.
If you have a upstairs apartment or a downstairs with a little balcony, you can do a little garden.
5-gallon buckets. Our son lived in an upstairs apartment with a balcony. He had tomatoes and pepper plants.
It's amazing.
He had a whole garden out on his little balcony. So we live on 5 acres. And I have a lot of land to do a garden. But I'm going to be honest with you, I only have about 100 square foot of garden space. And I still am able to get enough produce that I can't even keep up with it to can everything. I'm giving it to our kids.
Chickens.
Take this. I'm giving it to the chickens. So you don't need a lot of space. You just have to start. You just have to start doing it. I didn't know anything about gardening a few years ago, but I started putting seeds in the ground and growing seedlings and learn how to care for them, learn how to can them.
If you have the availability, either buy a gardening books, or what I saw the other day, we went to the thrift store and they have gardening books.
For a quarter.
For a quarter. But it just tells you kind of what different plants need and what times that you plant them and all sorts of things.
You know what? YouTube's free.
Well, if you don't have YouTube.
But if you don't have YouTube, you're going to need resources. You're going to need some homesteading books, some gardening books, some recipe books. My goodness, get your recipes written down. Because if you don't have YouTube, you're not going to know how to bake bread. These are things you need to know for gardening and making your own food. You have to be prepared. And speaking of gardening in small spaces, I want to bring up, I have some very good friends over at Bland's Promised Land Ranch. If you have not started following their channel, I'm going to put a link to their channel in the description box below. Make sure you go by and check them out. They have a lot of great videos. And I know that they're not going to mind that I share their story. They used to live on the East Coast in a townhome with 7 of their children. They have 8 now, but at the time they had 7 children. And they started seeing that they needed to become more self-sustainable. They were starting to see the changes that we were experiencing in our nation, and they wanted to become more self-sustainable. But they lived in a townhome, and they had no way to really do the things that they wanted to do. So they started thinking outside the box, and they really wanted chickens so they could have fresh eggs, but they couldn't have chickens where they were. But they had a friend that could have chickens where they lived. So they went to their friend and they said, hey, if we get a couple of chickens, can we keep them out here at your place? We'll split the eggs with you. And the friend was like, sure. So, that was a win-win situation for them, because they got to have the chickens they wanted. They got eggs, and their friends got eggs just for keeping the chickens on their property. Well, that led to them reaching then out to a family member, and they said, hey, you have a backyard. Can we put in a little garden in your backyard? And whatever we grow in the garden, we'll share. And so that family member said yes. And so there was another win-win situation. They were able to put a small garden in, learn what they needed to learn about gardening, and it benefited their family, and it benefited the family whose property that belonged to. So just by thinking outside the box a little bit and finding a land buddy where you're sharing things like this, they were able to benefit 3 different families just by saying, hey, can we do this? So think about that. If you've got some friends or family members that have a little bit of land accessible, or if maybe they have different rules and regulations where they live, co-op a little bit, see what you can come up with, so you guys can all be a little bit more self-sustainable.
Right, and I would even, as much as even if you have some property, get with other people that you know, and you can even share back seeds and whatever.
Yeah, do seed swaps.
Yeah.
Maybe your friend grows carrots really well, and you can't grow carrots to save your life, but you can grow pickles or cucumbers, or you can grow green beans.
Share the information back and forth, and share.
I'll give you some green beans, you give me some carrots.
Right.
Everybody benefits.
Right.
So just start thinking that way, and really, it's never too late to start a garden. It's never too late. Even if you plant and your seedlings come up and they don't do well, you've learned a little bit for the next time, and you'll learn a little bit more every time.
Country Mama, her first couple times at it, she wasn't, and so there's something I learned that I didn't know. I didn't know that they had the difference between heirloom seeds, and hybrid seeds.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the hybrid seeds, you can't reseed from them.
Yeah, the hybrid seeds, when you grow, let's say you grow a cucumber from the hybrid seeds, chances are you can take those seeds and plant them, you won't have success. But the heirloom seeds, you will.
Right, I didn't know that.
So
I learned something.
Let's talk about pet food.
Pet food.
Let's talk about your fur babies. We have started hearing about some shortages on pet food, which had us a little concerned. And Papa Jim, why don't you tell them you went online, because we normally get our stuff online. What happened?
Yeah. So I went online, and I was thinking, well, maybe I want to get a few bags of our dog food and a certain brand that I use. And so I went to a couple of the big box stores, and I was thought.
You went to more than one place.
One place online, and so then what I did was not being able to find stuff on my normal outlets online. We drove and went to our closest big box retailer, and went in. They did have my dog food, and so I bought. And I'm not one to big bulk buy. Hoard. I'm not a hoarder. But I thought, okay, if we're gonna go, and I'm hearing these things about our pet foods, I bought 3 of the big bags.
Big bags.
They went up $2 a bag, and this is just the start of it. It's $2 a bag, so it went up to $6 for the 3 big bags.
And that's gonna keep going. And what about cat food?
And I went to cat food, and I was surprised because the bagged cat food was thin. The canned cat food was almost gone.
Yeah.
Almost gone.
And it was fine last week.
And it was just, I could not, it blew me away that the canned cat food was gone.
So things you need to focus on that we've mentioned so far: cooking oils, coffee, pastas and flours, and now pet food supplies.
And you remember your pets need to eat just as much as you do.
They do. And again, these are not fear tactics.
No,
we're not fear mongering. We're sharing with you what we've seen, and we want you to pay attention to that and act now if you can.
Right.
But just
be aware.
Be aware, but don't be fearful.
Right.
Personal hygiene items. Make sure you have enough shampoo, soap, toothpaste, toilet paper, deodorant.
Basically, your personal hygiene stuff that
laundry
you normally use. Just make sure you have some extras. Laundry soap, cleaning supplies, stuff like that.
If you buy a 10-pack or a 12-pack of bar soap at your big box store and you just put it away. One great thing is, depending on the brand that you get, it'll kind of keep the rodents away. But then you can make a soap out of that to do your dishes. You can make a soap out of that to do your laundry. You can use it for your personal hygiene. Some of these things are going to have multi-purpose things. Get 1 bottle of bleach and put it away in case you need it for something. We don't use bleach here on the farm because of our septic system, but if we needed it in a pinch, it's nice to have it.
Yeah, we have it. You can, if you I mean, if you do need to sanitize water, you can take a couple drops of bleach and then sanitize it. You know, just make sure you check into that kind of stuff. I'm not real familiar with
Learn
that.
about it before you do it.
But we use our filtration, our Berkey type inspired system that we made up.
Yeah, that's how we filter our water.
Right.
Diapers. Make sure you have diapers and wipes. Get yourself a container of baking soda. You can use baking soda to brush your teeth if you run out of toothpaste. You can use it to as a cleaning agent, as a deodorizing agent. You can use it for deodorant for yourself. There are different things you can use.
You can get grab all like a lot of old shirts that you're gonna throw away, t-shirts, and you cut them into squares, and you just like put them away into a box or a bucket or whatever. And if you have to go to the bathroom, you can use that, and then you can throw those in the trash, or you can burn them, or you know. But that's another I want to say avenue. It's another
avenue. You know, if you run out of toilet paper, and then you say you run out of your t-shirt squares, you can get one of those pressurized sprayers that you use for
garden
your garden.
sprayers.
You can fill that up with water. You leave it sitting outside so you can get a little warmth from the sun. You have a little backyard bidet. You have to think that way. Now, people might say, ooh, but it'll work. Yeah. It will work. There are different things you can do. We never ran out of toilet paper. Now, it became a game for us to see if Papa Jim could find toilet paper, but we never ran out of toilet paper. But we did start using one company where our toilet paper is actually just mailed right here to the house to us. And they never ran out of toilet paper during that whole hype thing a couple years ago. So I will be putting the information down below. I'll see if I can find a code for you. If there's a code, you might be able to save $10 on your first order.
And they do good things.
And they do good things. 50% of their profits go back to building sanitation areas in third world countries. So people
go to the bathroom so they don't get disease and stuff. So they do good things.
Yeah. So consider just different options for personal health care like that. One thing I really want to point out, though, and this is something that I've shared with our sons, is if you've got young teenage daughters, preteens, adolescents, teens, if you have daughters, please make sure that you get some feminine products and stash them away just in case. If it gets to where the store shelves are wiped clean and there's nothing available, as a grown woman, we know we can handle it if we have to use some t-shirt rags or something, but you don't want to do that to an adolescent. You want to make sure that they have what they need.
They're just coming into the thought of having to deal with it, and then you got this on top of it. Don't do that.
Don't do that to their sensitivities. Make sure they have feminine products. Please make sure you have that. So that's the end of that subject. And here's the thing too: stash a bunch of it, and you can use them for your first aid kit. If
somebody gets a bad wound, you can pop those out.
Put them in your first aid kit, and you've got them for your young daughter if she needs them during a situation.
Right. Absolutely. Picnic supplies.
Stock up on picnic supplies, and I know that may sound strange right now, but I think we have 3 5-gallon buckets put away in different areas on the property with picnic supplies in it.
Not because we're gonna have a big picnic.
No. If we're in a situation where we have no water for 3, 5, 8 days a month, whatever, last thing I'm going to want to be doing is wasting our water on trying to wash dishes. We have paper plates, napkins, we have all of the plastic silverware, which can have double duty there. We have, what else do I have in there? Straws, anything that I can think of for picnic supplies that will come in handy.
Right.
Cups, plastic cups. We have those in 5-gallon buckets, and that way, if we are in a grid down situation, I can just use those if I need to, even though we would use them sparingly.
Right.
It's not going to be like when you go to your regular picnic and you get
3 plates, 4 plates.
3 plates and throw them all away when you're done with your hot dog.
Especially when you're the one hosting it and you see people carrying 5 plates, you're thinking, I paid for
all those plates. Put them in a 5-gallon bucket. Put them away. You've got them in case you're in a grid down situation. Because I have a friend right now, and I'm sure she won't mind my sharing this. They have 10 children. They haven't had water for 3 days on their farm. Can you imagine 12 people in a home and having to wash the dishes as you're trying to feed them with no water? So make sure you've got a stash of that put aside. Maybe you'll only use 1 bucket during the 3 or 5 days that you're down. That's okay. You can refill that back up, but at least you had it. Right. And it'll make your life so much easier. So make sure you have those put away. we're moving on to Papa Jim's favorite subject, which is
Fuel.
fuel. What do we want to say about fuel today, Papa Jim?
Well, what are we going to say about fuel today? Okay, so on fuel, if you can and you have the ability to store a little fuel away, if you gasoline for your vehicles, if you got like maybe a 5-gallon approved container. 5 gallons doesn't seem like a lot, but if you're in a situation that you need gas to get to wherever, a hospital, somebody needs you or whatever, that 5 gallons can come in really handy. If you want to store a little bit more, that's fine. I wouldn't store a whole bunch. Even in these containers, fuel can attract moisture and stuff, and it can decrease the effectiveness of the fuel. Propane. Get yourself some. What we have here, we have a little Coleman stove down in the basement, and then I have where I can put little of those 1-pound cylinders like you get at the big box stores or like hunting stores and stuff. We have that. If you want to warm up, that way you can warm up some water. I have a hose attachment for 20-pound cylinders like you use for your barbecuers. So you want to have a couple of those around. Generator. So we do have a backup generator here on the farm. It's not one of these ones that are auto switching that does the house. It's just a regular generator that has wheels on it. I chose to do the dual fuel, which will run on gasoline and it'll run on LP or propane. LP is liquid propane. I only run it on propane. And the reason why I run it on propane is the fact is that if you run it and you want to run your generator at least a couple times a year to make sure that everything is good to go, if you run gasoline in it, even if you run a stabilizer in the fuel, that stabilizer, if the fuel dries in the carburetor, it'll gum the carburetor up and it will not start the next time.
And you don't want to be in a bad situation where you need that generator and it won't start.
So even if you take and you run turn the fuel off and run the carburetor dry, there's still that residue. Trust me, I've been there. So when we got this other generator, I only run it on propane. And when I shut the propane off and it dies, it's clean, it's dry. There's no residue, there's no nothing. When I turn the propane back on and I go to start it, boom, starts right up. So that's something, it's a little bit more money, but in the big picture, long term, it's actually cheaper because you don't have to constantly be taking and having your generator repaired all the time.
The other thing that we looked into when we purchased this generator for where we live is we made sure it was 220.
Right. 110 or 220. Or 240. 120, 240.
120, 240.
Right.
Because we need that to run the well.
Yeah, our well is off of the 220, 240.
So it'd be one thing to be without electricity for a while, but it's another to be without the well water. So, and speaking of propane, since we're talking about fuel, now's the time. If you're on propane, if you have a propane tank where you live, now's the time to get in touch with your provider and get it topped off. Now is the time to take care of that, because if their gas prices, if their fuel costs are going to go up, they may charge a surcharge to come out and fill up. Try to get ahead of that. Also, if they're experiencing some issues with their fuel, they might not even deliver anymore. You just don't know. So take care of that now. Also, look to see if you can get into a type of a budget payment plan with them. When we first moved to the farm, we were not on any type of a budget program. And I think our first month here on the farm, we had an extreme cold snap, and it affected the entire area. And before we knew it, propane was up over $5 a gallon.
Yeah.
And this is a 1,000-gallon tank. And we were running out of propane already the first month we were here because there was an issue with the tank. It was leaking the propane. But after that, and we just didn't think we could afford the propane anymore, we had the tank checked. So make sure your tank is working well and you're not losing gas You're not losing your propane out of
Right.
it. But also see if you can get on a budget system. We did that at our first availability. Usually the budget systems run for a 12-month period, and they start at the summer and work the
summer
whole
rate.
year.
So you want to lock it in the summertime at the
Summer
summer
rate.
rates. Right.
And then it'll just be 12
Right.
equal payments throughout the year.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I want to touch on propane as well is make sure you have your little 20-gallon propane containers filled up so you can do the alternative for cooking. If you're cooking outside, if you don't have any electric or any gas in the home because of whatever reason, and you're going to be doing your cooking outside, just make sure you do not use your propane grills or your barbecues, charcoal, anything. Don't use them for heat inside. Please don't do that. And anytime you have anything kind of situation, make sure you've got your carbon monoxide detectors
Right.
in the
So
home.
I
all
would
kinds of
I
things.
would
Don't do this.
recommend doing a carbon monoxide detector
Regardless.
in the house, and then I would, if you can, I would buy another one and put it in your survival bucket with batteries, not batteries in it. Do never store your
Store your batteries in your refrigerator.
right, or you store your batteries. If you're going to store batteries in your containers, do not store them in the devices. Store them outside the devices.
Yes.
Do not store them in devices. But anyway, that way, if you do, okay, let's say you are running an alternative heat source, aka you're going to run some candles, or you're going to do whatever you feel you need for heat. I make sure you run a carbon monoxide, even with candles. Don't.
Yeah,
It is
candles,
not worth it.
oil lamps,
Oil lamps.
the Crisco candles that
Right.
you can make to have a little bit of light and
Right.
heat source during a time when you have no
I've
power.
seen some people doing little rocket heaters for heat and stuff inside the house, and
Just be safe.
you got to be safe. You got those carbon monoxide detectors are pennies compared to what devastation it will do.
Right.
Carbon
So make
monoxide,
sure-
carbon monoxide poisoning is the silent killer.
It is. So make sure your charcoal barbecues, your oven,
Mhm.
your grills, your generators, don't use them for heat
No.
inside.
No.
Don't cook inside with those
No.
implements either, and always make sure you have a carbon monoxide detector.
Yeah, we have a carbon monoxide. We have fire alarms. We have all that inside the house just to make sure that we're protected. Because yeah, go ahead.
Still talking about backup power sources, we talked a little bit about our generator that we have, and if you have the availability to get one, that's great. But let's talk about for some small items. I'm going to put a link in our description box below for a really nice little item that we have in our blackout kit. In addition to our first aid kit, we have a blackout kit. It has everything we need in it in case we lose power for an extended period of time. And in there we have a little weather radio, and you can get weather radio reports, regular radio reports. It has a flashlight. It has a USB port where you can charge your cell phones. What else? It has all kinds of things on it, and you can crank it to charge it, or it has a solar panel, so you can just stick it in the window and charge it. And that way you have access to the outside world, and you have a way to charge your devices.
Right.
I'll leave the link to that so you can have that for alternative power source.
Right.
Again, make sure if you have things that lanterns that require batteries, anything that requires batteries, store the batteries in the refrigerator.
Never store your batteries inside your devices.
They'll corrode.
They'll
and
corrode.
It's nasty. You don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, I've had several flashlights die from the battery leakage deal. So.
You know, we touched a little bit on propane for your grills. We've touched a little bit on like charcoal for your grills outside and everything. You're going to want to think up some alternative cooking situations. You know, 2 years ago we had a derecho blow through the state that we live in. And I know for my sister, she had no power for 5 days. She didn't have propane for her grill. She had no way to cook food for 5 days. So start thinking about some of the alternative methods you can use to cook food in a grid down situation. We're going to be doing a video coming up on how to make your own rocket stove. You would be amazed at how well the rocket stove produces heat and fire to actually cook very little tinder. Just tiny little sticks will get you a beautiful fire to work with. Solar ovens. We have a solar oven that we bake and cook with. Uses the power of the sun, no energy at all. If you cannot afford a sun oven, we recommend the All-American Sun Oven. I'll put a link below. But if you can't afford one of those, you know, you can pick up some simple supplies at the thrift store. You might even have the supplies at home. Look up, there's videos all over YouTube on how to make your own solar ovens out of simple supplies for pennies. And in a grid down situation, you'd be amazed. I bake bread in our solar oven, and we've made casseroles and peach cobbler, yum. We've made all kinds of beautiful things in a solar oven from the power of the sun. So rocket stoves, solar ovens.
Just make sure, like with your alternative heat sources, rocket stoves, barbecues, propane burners and stuff. All that stuff's outside.
Yes, everything's
You
outside.
do all that stuff.
Well, you
outside.
can't do the solar oven inside.
Right. Well, you could do it through a window, I guess, if you want to. But
You could try. It's called transportation.
Transportation.
Papa Jim is in the industry, and he can attest to the fact that parts are hard to come by right now. They're getting harder by the day.
Yeah, I've been an automotive technician for, I hate to say this, I'm tapping on almost 40 years.
So he sees what's out there in the industry.
Yeah.
Parts are getting hard to come by. This is an important time right now to make sure that your vehicle is in good working order. Don't let things go. Get it repaired if you can right now, because later on down the line, those parts might not be there. Also, get to know those in your area who have the abilities, have the skill set to work on cars, because they might be able to help you with just some minor fixes, even if the parts aren't available, because once your car's down, it's down.
Another thing that I would suggest is just make sure that especially with these fuel costs, as our fuel prices go up, one of our complaints is fuel mileage on vehicles. Because you start noticing that, hey, you know what, it's costing me $75 to put fuel in my car. And so the people are starting to look at their fuel mileage more. Simple things as an air filter. Your car's air filter. When the car's air filter starts getting dirty, it can't get that fresh air, and so you're burning a richer fuel mixture, and so that's where your gas mileage is going to go. So you're just keep the maintenance up on your vehicles if you can, but just simple things, air filters, stuff like that.
So keeping your car maintained is important, but look at alternative methods of transportation depending on where you live. Walk if you can, ride a bike if you can, carpool if you can, and then maybe share the cost of the fuel. That helps a little bit. If you live in an urban or a suburban situation where you might have some public transit, you can have the public bus systems. You can have possibly sometimes some commuter trains that you can rely on. Start using those methods if you can. If you check with your local Chamber of Commerce or your city transportation department, there may be some services available for veterans, for the elderly, for those who have disabilities, for students. Look in your area and see what's available. I know that there are some programs where one I heard about specifically recently was a veterans program where they will have a bus come and pick you up at your home, take you where you need to go for $1 each way. So look in to see if there's programs like that available to help with your transportation needs. Shelter in place and grid down items are some important things to have on hand, and things that you want to start saving up for, and things that you want to start putting away just in case. Duct tape, tarps. You can get some paracord at the Dollar Tree type stores. Have those in a bucket somewhere, because you never know when a tarp and paracord is going to come in handy. Recently, we lost power here at our farm when it was negative 35 degrees below zero on a windy night, and this 1902 farmhouse got cold, and it got cold fast. And even though we had everything in place, it made me realize that we had a hole in our plan, and the hole in our plan was we didn't have what we needed to make a little microclimate. So we will be getting a tent, so that on those really cold times, if we would have had power loss for 3, 4, 5 days under those conditions, it would have been very, very difficult to stay in this home. But in a microclimate, if we stayed inside of a little tent with good sleeping bags, we can survive. So make sure you have sleeping bags and things like that in a microclimate. It's a little 2-person dome tent, because it keeps the heat in.
Or whatever size you would need to have your family inside of it. So, I mean, for us, it's just two of us.
Do what works for you.
Right, but do what works, so if you've got children or whatever, elderly in your house and stuff, make sure you account for them. So
You know, the other thing is too is we live in tornado country, and if our home were hit by a tornado, and we'd have a tent that we could stay in
the
out in one of
basement.
the outbuildings or somewhere in the basement. We bug out down in the basement. We don't have a tent down there for it. But if you needed to be outside the home, if the
Right.
home is not livable at that moment, you've got a tent,
Right.
you've got sleeping bags, you've got things that
Right.
you can pull from the wreckage and utilize. But the main important thing is you just have to have those shelter in place items. Way to get your food, way to get your water, a way to have shelter over your head and stay warm and dry. Those are things that you need to have. Also, you're going to need a light source and a heat source. Make sure you have some good lighters so that you can light your candles, light your oil lamps, light your fire, so that you can cook your food outside. All of these little things that you might not think of, where all of a sudden if you don't have power and you don't have a way to cook your food, you might not have a lighter handy.
We have
Things
those.
that you
We
have to
have
have.
those lighters, those stick lighters,
That like you use for a barbecue.
like used for a barbecue. We have, I don't know, we have them in buckets. We have them because you never know.
They are diversified throughout our property,
Right.
and then but we also have them in the blackout kit. And again, I will post the
Right.
link to that video so you can see that. And last but not least on our list, it's a touchy subject, so we're not going to be going into it in too much detail, but personal safety.
Just have the means to be able to protect your property, your family, your loved ones. Make sure that you need to do what you feel is right to protect yourselves.
A lot of the avenues for personal protection, that ship's already sailed. If you haven't already prepared
Right.
for certain means of protection, you're not going to find
Right.
that. But look around your home, see what you have available to protect yourself by any means that you feel that you're comfortable with. If you're going to prepare yourself for when the poopy hits the proverbial fan, you're going to have what other people need, and you're going to have to protect that, and you're going to have to
Right.
protect your family. So again, it's a touchy situation.
Yeah.
We don't want to go too
Yeah.
deep into it, but we do want you to think about what you're going to need to do to protect your family. Also, make sure you have a plan in place where if communications go down, you have something set up with your family members in the area or your close friends that are in your inner circle. Where do you meet? Where's the meetup location? What do you bring? Make sure you have all of
Right.
that worked out ahead of time so that there's no miscommunication and people don't know where you are. You know, one thing that we wanted to really push on this now, and that's number 15. We're done with that one.
Right.
We're going to let you work on that one without going into
Yeah.
too much detail, but think of your personal protection. We've got given you some great ideas here to get started. And the thing is all of this means nothing if you don't put it into action. Pick 1, 2, 3, 10 things off of our list. Think about what you need to prioritize, what you need to do, but do something. And go on a practice grid down situation where you have no cell phone, no electricity, no running water, and see how you fare. See how you do. See what aggravates you the most. See where your successes are, and see where the holes in your system are so that you can improve on that.
Right.
And then the next time, do it in a different season. Do it when it's hot, do it when it's cold. Learn what you need to learn so that you can improve on this. Because if you don't put it into action, if you don't practice it, with all of these things that we've shared, take the responsibility to learn about safety, learn about the precautions that you need to take to do what you need to do for yourself and your family.
Right.
So we hope that these past couple of videos have been helpful. We're hoping that you learn a little bit more now about hyperinflation versus inflation, what may be coming down the pike, and some things to get you started to a little bit more self-sufficiency and feeling better about being prepared for whatever happens.
Scared.
Yeah, again, it's not a fear-mongering type of video. We just want you to start picking a few of the things that we've provided you with and see what you can implement so that you can practice and be prepared for an off-grid situation. We just want you to be safe.
Yeah.
So having said that, watch for future videos. We're going to have some tutorials coming up on some of the things that we've discussed here. And until we see you again, though, put this into effect. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
Right.